Cloud. All right, well, welcome everybody to our Spring Tech Showcase. And today our topic is GoReact. We have Matthew Short um, from GoReact slash Echo 360, um, or should I say Echo 360 slash GoReact, whichever way. I guess they're the parent company now. So um, anyway, without further ado, we'll allow Matthew to tell us anything about himself and then go ahead and showcase GoReact for us.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Mike. Good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew Short, Client Success Manager assigned to BYU in the support of GoReact, our skill development tool. As Mike was alluding to, some hot off the press news, GoReact was acquired by Echo 360. So now we are GoReact as part of Echo 360's learning transformation platform. I'm still getting acclimated to kind of the terminology and how I should be framing that, but our product is still called GoReact, so I can at least make it through a training session without fumbling too much. So I've been with GoReact and now a part of Echo 360 for a little over 4 years at this point, and I've been working with BYU since I joined the company. So as we move forward, I work closely with Mike if there's any scenarios, any situations where I can be of help in terms of figure out ways to leverage our product in kind of creative ways to make sure that you're able to leverage it as part of your curriculum. You may see my face or see me on a webinar in future points, but for today's session, it's intended to kind of give a general overview of the tool, kind of give you an idea of what the tool is designed to be utilized for, provide an overview and demonstration of the different features and functionalities that can be leveraged within the tool. And also I can walk through a few examples of different type of assignments or activities that our product could be leveraged for. So starting off, I just like to kind of show our company's website just to kind of set the foundation for what our tool is designed for. We are a skill development platform. I generally boil it down that if there's ever a practical instance where a student can complete a task or perform some function that helps them to demonstrate a set of skills or individual skills that they're learning as part of a course or a program of study as a whole, our product allows those students to record themselves completing said task or performing some steps, sequence of steps that allows them to demonstrate they know what they're doing. They know how to practically apply that information, that knowledge that they're gaining from the classroom in practical scenarios where, as they go on into their professional careers, they will have to apply that knowledge and kind of react and analyze and respond in those scenarios where those skills are practical or useful. So as we go into the system, this is intended to allow students to capture themselves on video and then provide it to you as their instructors to review that performance, to provide them feedback on where they did well, where there's opportunities for growth, also potentially even including peers as well on activities to get peer feedback or peer perspective on what they noticed or saw within these video files as well. Um, while today's demonstration, I will be using GoReact.com. Our tool is also integrated within an LMS as well for Learning Suite or Canvas or any of the LMSs within BYU's ecosystem. We do have an LTI integration. So this tool can be integrated directly into your coursework. And I know Mike and his team is willing and able to jump in and help walk through how that can be kind of integrated or plugged into your learning management system courses.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions about that, contact me later, or if we get done early enough, I can show that quickly.
Perfect, perfect. So with kind of that foundational knowledge set as far as what the tool is intended to be utilized for, I want to show an example of what a video submission can look like so that you can see the different tools in action that you can leverage as part of that feedback cycle when students are submitting videos as part of our system. So real quickly, I'm just going to switch tabs here. And again, this is on goreact.com. So once I click into an activity, this is a very similar view that you'll see within the learning management system when you open a GoReact activity. Basically, each link you set up within your course will link directly to a specific or a unique activity. where you'll see in this instance, I've got several videos, some from myself, some from Professor Fitzgerald here, John Smith, Jane Smith. So each video submitted by a student in an activity is something that can be viewed individually. I, as the instructor, get to see all the submissions that were set by my students for this particular activity. So for example, I'm going to click on Jane Smith's video right here. And I'll go ahead and give you a heads up. I have muted the audio just so it's not talking over me as the video is playing, but please take my assurances that there is actual audio captured here, the video is playing, and I, as the instructor, am watching my student's performance here. This example is a student candidate teaching a lesson within the field with her students here. One of the practical applications of our tool is teacher education, teacher preparation, but also thinking of examples like nursing education, performance arts, those kind of disciplines or subject areas where there is a performative component to it. This is where our system can kind of be heavily maximized and leveraged to allow students to capture that performance in action. So as I'm watching this video, let's say at this particular point in the video, I noticed something that I wanted to call out to my student. So you'll see here, and let me zoom in a little bit. I don't want it to be quite the eye test, so I'll zoom in a little bit here. But let's say I noticed something here. This was a great discussion question to get your students actively engaged in the activity. Make sure you continue to leverage this practice in future group discussions. You'll see as soon as I started typing, that video paused, and that is deliberate. It's intended to give me the time I need to finish my thought, finish my feedback that I have at that particular moment in the video. And once I'm done, I just simply hit return on my keyboard here, and you'll see the video resumes playing. My comment is added to the commentary log here. It's also got a timestamp for the moment where I made my keystroke to note this piece of feedback in the video. And what's also great about this comment here is it's basically a hyperlink to that point in the video. So if a student comes in after the fact and sees this comment, it's like, there was so much going on, I don't remember this very specific moment. They can click on that link right here, and you'll see it's going to jump about 5 seconds in the timeline prior to that timestamp. So the student is actually able to see the lead-in context, those moments leading up to that point. So they can, have that moment of realization. It's like, oh yeah, that was really a great discussion question. It really got everybody actively engaged. I definitely want to do that again going forward. So allowing them to anchor that feedback at the moment where it's most relevant and make it so that the student can kind of see that concrete moment within the video footage as well. So I can continue to watch this particular video. I can continue to add comments in here. So I'll just do some quick example comments. Two, you'll see again, rinsing, repeating. As soon as I hit the keystroke, it pauses the video. As soon as I hit return, video resumes playing. Now, text is great. This allows me to kind of capture and notate kind of what I'm seeing in the video, but you're not limited simply to text, as you can probably guess from a lot of these icons and buttons over here off to the side. So as I kind of scroll over here, you're going to see some icons. You got a nice emoji face here. I'll circle back to that shortly. You got some other icons, but what I want to open is I want to open this plus sign so you can see the totality of those multimedia feedback options. Let's say there's a moment in this video where it's honestly easier for me to like narrate my feedback. Maybe it'd be too long to type. So I'm just going to kind of record myself providing feedback. Or maybe I want to make sure my student is getting like my authentic tone. I feel like when we get written feedback in our heads, we just innately think it's like the harshest criticism of our work. It's like, oh, I did so terribly here. I should never have done that. Whereas if I'm recording my voice or my picture as well, I can convey that feedback with my authentic tone. It's like, hey, this stuff happens. You did honestly not so bad of a job here. These are some things you might keep in mind. I can just hit the video option. And sorry, you're going to see my face twice here, once in Zoom and once in our system. But you'll see here, it's going to pull up my web camera. I'm going to hit play. Hey, Jane, at this particular moment, I noticed a couple of students off to the side that weren't fully engaged in the lesson. If you were to notice this in future lessons, what tactics or what approach would you take to re-engage those students so that everybody's contributing and a part of the learning that's going on within this particular lesson? And hit stop once I'm done recording. You'll see we've got a little video thumbnail in there that's processing, and I can also add text here. So please reference my video. And you'll see, and I'm zoomed in quite a bit, so let me back up just slightly. You'll see that not only do I have that text, not only does it mark my name and the timestamp, but there's also a video that the student is able to play to hear me, to see my face. This is really nice touch if it's like a hybrid or a virtual course where maybe I don't have that face-to-face interaction with my students all the time. So this is a way I can add kind of a little bit of a personal touch and make sure they see my face, hear my voice, periodically, or convey that feedback in a more effective way if video is a better medium for that. Beyond video, you can also upload electronic artifacts, whether it's a picture, whether it's a PDF, maybe you have your own video file of like a great example of a particular practice. You can upload content into the commentary log for the student to see or reference. As you identify electronic artifacts that you'd like to use more frequently, you could actually store them in your GoReact library so that you have those readily available. You're not having to like look on your computer or, oh, that file's on my desktop at home. You can just store them in your library for frequent access. If you don't want to turn on your camera one day, you can just do a voice note. So it's pretty much the same process as what I just showed you with the video. It's just that there's no visual. You just hit record. It's going to capture my voice. Student is able to hear that in the timeline and have it kind of anchored at that point where it's most relevant. So I just hit record. I record my voice for as long as I need to, hit stop. And just like the video, there's just that little voice note that gets added in there. I hit enter, and you'll see now there's a voice note on there. Lastly, we also do have third-party integrations with YouTube and Zoom. So if you do have content or examples that you would like to reference in the commentary log that are on those two platforms, YouTube, you just copy and paste the link that you want to show in the commentary log. Zoom, if you have a Zoom recording on your computer, you can upload it. Or if you have cloud storage, you can actually import it from your cloud storage into the commentary log so students can reference that within the commentary log.
Matthew, can I chime in on the Zoom?
Mhm.
If you're using cloud recordings of Zoom, you may want to be aware at BYU at least that our Zoom recordings on the cloud um, do get deleted after I can't remember if it's 1 year
Mm,
or 9 months or what it is right now. So you'd want to be cautious about that. You may want to you can maybe use it first time, but then get that saved either into your library here or onto
mhm.
YouTube so that you have it long term. So just
Absolutely.
yeah, thank.
Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. And this is actually a great point to stop and see if there are any initial questions. And Paul, I see you've got your hand raised, so I'm happy to field a question as well.
Yeah, this um, for the video, could you use a Zoom recording as the input video that you're commenting on?
Mm. So absolutely. So as far as submission options for student to submit video files for this, students can use our native recorder. It kind of functions very similarly to Zoom. You're just going to see your webcam or you hit record and you do your task. Or if your students are comfortable leveraging Zoom to record themselves, you can actually take like a Zoom recording and upload it for your video submission. There's also an upload option. So if your students are using like personal devices or tablets, they can upload the file directly from those devices, or if they have like a digital camcorder, they can leverage that. There's also a YouTube integration. Some disciplines leveraging YouTube with an open link makes my skin itch a little bit, like teacher education, where I wouldn't want to post like an open YouTube video of me teaching students in the field. But if it's just the student recording themselves and maybe they're comfortable with the YouTube app, they could copy and paste like their video submission from YouTube into this to submit it to you as well. So definitely multiple options that make it easy for your students to get that video footage to you. We'll also touch on a little later, there are activity options that would allow you as the instructor to supply video to your students to review and potentially analyze. And those same submission options are available to you as instructors when you're setting up those activities as well. So it may be beneficial if you have Zoom recordings that you want to apply into your curriculum with our tool, that you can leverage those options to get footage for your students to review as well. Great question.
Thank you.
Mhm. Now, two other things I want to emphasize here. Everything I have shown you feedback options wise thus far is on by default in every GoReact activity. You don't have to check a box saying like, oh, I want to have the video option or the audio option. All of these tools are available to you to leverage on any GoReact activity. You get to choose which medium, which option is best for the feedback that you're conveying at any point. So if text is great for some, great, use text. If a video is more effective in some instance, you get to choose when to incorporate that into the feedback module. The other thing I want to convey is your students have the same tools available to them to engage in self-reflection or self-assessment of their own performance, or in instances where you are leveraging some of our peer feedback settings on activities, peers would be able to leverage these same features to leave their peers feedback. Lastly, all of these comments, all of these things you can reply back and forth to. So if I gave my student all of this feedback, those students could come in here and reply, leveraging those same options, same tools, so that we can actually have like a dialogue or a feedback cycle back and forth, so that I can like acknowledge my instructor's feedback or maybe have a clarifying question. We can go engage back and forth directly within that commentary log, so it's all captured there. I also want to circle back our friendly emoji. While I don't generally advise that for actual kind of feedback that you're providing students, unless it's kind of a friendly icebreaker like activity, I do find it incredibly helpful to have students acknowledging feedback using emojis. Feel like we have text threads where we give like the thumbs up or heart emoji or smiley face. You can kind of take a similar approach with this, where if I see feedback from my instructor, I give it the thumbs up so that my instructor knows, hey, got it, loud and clear. So I do like it for kind of acknowledging or recognizing feedback in there. But again, if you'd like to incorporate it into your comments, you have that opportunity when you are submitting a comment to drop that in there. Though kissy face emoji is probably not applicable in most instances. All right, so we've seen those default feedback options available on any activity. I want to show you two other options. One you may have noticed the first time I did a training, when we did a little user interface refresh, somebody asked me why there were Skittles on the screen, and I have a sweet tooth, so the association stuck. You may notice these brightly colored circles. We refer to these as markers. Think of markers as kind of programmatic feedback. So if there are activities that you leverage our tool for, and there are very common pieces of feedback, I think of like a communications course where every time a student uses a filler word, I want to note that in their transcript, or in the commentary log, I should say. So instead of typing filler word, or copying and pasting it a million times, I can actually set up a marker so that every time I see that practice in action, I simply click the marker and it will drop it into the commentary log. And you'll even see here in this example, you can have pre-canned statements that go with that marker, so the student knows when I click classroom management, it means this. So you don't have to even type those descriptors. This can be a great way to make sure the student is clear that when this marker is selected, this is the behavior I'm noting or the practice that is in action. So as I continue to watch, I can simply just click those markers. You don't have to have a canned statement. You can simply have the marker if it's self-explanatory enough. But just seeing this in action, that this is a great way to add efficiency to your feedback process if there's those repetitive pieces of feedback that you don't want to have to constantly type, so that your text can be more kind of substantive, kind of identifying those more in-depth practices that you want to call out. if you want, students can also leverage these markers on these activities too. Sometimes we have instructors set these up so that the students kind of self-tag or self-identify behaviors in their video first. And then I, as the instructor, can come in to make sure, like, yep, you identified this behavior or you tagged this moment correctly. And you can even reply or engage with those markers. As you can see here, I've got the reply option there. So just a great way to add additional efficiency. You can create as many different marker sets as you like. So if you have different marker sets you want to use on different video-based activities, that's great. The only limitation is that you can attach one marker set to an individual activity, and you can have no more than 30 markers in a marker set, which if I had 30 of those circles, it'd probably be a little bit overwhelming, cumbersome, but if you do have something that is that intensive, you could potentially have up to 30 of those markers to leverage on an individual activity. Any questions on kind of the purpose or utility of that marker feature? Nope. Wonderful. All right, last option that you can choose to enable. And I don't know if I clarified that specifically on markers. That is an option that you have that you can turn on, but is not on by default. Because if you're setting up a marker set, you're going to actively select which one I want to use, or I need to create it if it's brand new. But you are actively assigning that marker set to the activity in the same way that if you use our third feedback option, rubrics, you are going to build and attach a rubric to this particular activity. If there is a scenario where you want to standardize kind of the grading or assessment of that particular student's video, or for any of the videos, I should say, that are submitted for this activity. So I would give one rubric for that activity, and that's what I'm going to see when I'm scoring every student's video within that individual activity. So as you can see here, I've just got this clinical practice observation rubric. I go through as the instructor, I set up these questions. I structured this myself. So at this point, it's really just responding or filling out the questions or filling in the rubric that I've established for this particular activity. You'll see as I'm filling this in, it is calculating what score the student is receiving. And if you are leveraging our tool within an LMS, it is possible for this grade to import into the grade book in your LMS as well, so that you're not having to manually enter that. So as I go through, keep filling this out, rinse and repeat real quickly. I think I'm getting close to the end, so I apologize for too much repetitiveness here, but as I get to the end of that rubric, if I'm done, I simply click post. And at this point, if I am leveraging this within an LMS, that grade will post to the grade book in your LMS. Also, the student would be able to come into their video and see your responses on that rubric as well. And while in this instance, it's kind of all performance level based, you can also add point-based questions. You can also have text fields if there's like narrative feedback or summaries you want to provide. So, but ultimately the student would be able to see this so that they could see kind of their score and how you assess them. I also want to note that rubrics can be enabled for your students as well. So if you'd like students to self-assess their own performance, it can literally be the same rubric you're using. And maybe it's just an opportunity to dialogue. Hey, I noticed you scored this trait this, but I scored it this. Let's have a conversation about, where we're differing or what you're seeing that I'm not. But rubric can also be something as simple as maybe more of like reflection or prompt questions. So I could create a rubric that is a series of like text-based fields for my students to fill in. Hey, where do you think you did well in this activity? Where do you still feel you're struggling? What approaches, what things are you going to work on for next time? So while rubric has that kind of evaluative connotation, think of rubrics more as just kind of a response form that students can fill out if there's like guided reflection or guided questions you want them to kind of think about after they've recorded a video. So at this point, we've seen the commentary options that are available here to provide feedback to students. You've seen the markers, you've seen the rubric option. Again, you can choose to enable or turn that on for specific activities if there is that evaluative component. The only other thing I do want to mention here is that if there's ever instances where a student, it would benefit you to see additional context or information that you might not be able to easily glean from the video itself, it is also possible for students to attach participants that go along with their footage. Again, my background's in teacher education, so it's hard for me to assess what's going on in a video if I don't know what the lesson plan going into that was. Maybe if I'm working with a patient, I have like my background information that I'm gathering. Maybe that would be helpful for my instructor or mentor to see when I'm analyzing the video. Any supporting documents can be uploaded and attached so that you as the instructor or peers can see that context if it's kind of difficult to like stare in and see in the video directly. You can upload as many different files as you would like. The only thing I do like to mention, just because here, let me go to the upload option, sorry. You'll notice here it does kind of specify video, audio, PDF, or image files. That is not the exhaustive list of file types you can upload. The reason why it says those is because those are the files that will open within our previewer so that you don't have to download them. But if I were to upload like a Word document or a PowerPoint, I could still access those. I would just need to download it to my computer and have that third-party software to open it. So our system doesn't have like Microsoft built into it, but if you have it on your computer, as you probably saw a moment ago, like I have the option to like download this Excel file if I needed to. So right in the middle of my screen, I just download it, and then I can open that file on my computer and review it if needed. But if there's anything that's like a PDF or an image, oh, that's a document. Sorry, that's a bad example. You could actually see it directly within the browser and you don't have to download it directly to your computer. All right. So we've seen kind of the tools and features that are available to us that we can leverage on videos. Any questions on any of the components that we have seen thus far before we take a look at, kind of the different settings or features that can be turned on for different activities? And feel free to come off mute, ask questions aloud, raise your hand. I don't want it to be a monologue for the whole time. So if there are questions or anything, please throw them out there.
Yeah, and I can also help you monitor the chat if people
Excellent.
want to put questions in the chat.
Perfect. All righty. So at this point, let's circle back. And again, the process will look a little different to add individual activities with your LMS courses. But again, Mike and his team are willing and able to help walk through that process. But what I can show you in our platform is if I were to create a brand new activity, you will have the opportunity to either create an activity from scratch. So you'll see kind of a similar screen when you create a brand new activity, like, do you want to build this from scratch? There's also going to be options that if you have previously built GoReact activities, or also you can store templates in your library. You can kind of like copy a previously established shell so that you can copy those same settings into a course. But for this example, I'm just going to do a blank activity so you can kind of see the full gamut of all the options that are available. Within your LMS course, whatever you call it in the LMS side, that's what name's going to port over. So just for this example, I'm just going to put demo assignment, but this is a step that you likely will not have to do. It'll just inherit the name from the LMS activity you've created. Everything else, though, will be the exact same as I go through these options. Starting with activity details. So this is where I get to determine what type of assignment I get to set. Is this a private activity where it's just me as the instructor seeing each individual student's video, or maybe it's an opportunity to include peers into this activity? You can attach artifacts or documents or kind of reference points I like to kind of consider it a setting the stage attachment. So if you want to share an example of, hey, this is an example of what I am expecting to see here. Or maybe if it's like an evaluative exercise, you could attach the rubric that's going to be utilized to score or assess that student's performance, just so there's that transparency of, hey, this is how I'm grading you on this assignment. So no surprises, everything's out there. It's just a matter of you kind of performing based on that rubric. So the first option, activity type. What we looked at initially was a standard activity. I have given some prompt or task for my students to complete, and I've asked them to record themselves and submit that to me to evaluate. Ultimately, it's a student submitting a video file that either I, themselves, or peers are going to be reviewing. However, as I mentioned earlier with Paul's question, there's potentially the opportunity to flip the script and for me as the instructor to provide students with a video that I ask them to do something with. And I've got some examples that I can show you here in a little bit just to make it a little bit more concrete of how these look or how these function. But starting with comment only, because it's easiest to describe, think of comment only as like a video discussion board almost. I can provide a video to my students to watch, and then they get to use all those commentary options I showed you initially to note questions they might have, add their comments, maybe analyze or assess what they see going on within that video example I have provided. So it's a really straightforward way that if I have a great video I want my students to kind of look at and kind of pick apart or analyze or note the questions they have, they can watch that video and just leverage those feedback options I've showed you to note their feedback. Stimulus is kind of in a similar vein. You're still supplying a video to your students to watch. The curveball with this one is students are going to actually record themselves as they're watching that video. It's kind of like I may be kind of referencing a date, it may be a dated reference, but if anybody's familiar with like Mystery Science Theater 3000, you got the guy and the two robots watching the old sci-fi movies, yammering the whole time that the movie's going on. It's kind of a similar vein. I'm watching some video that my instructors provided me, and I am narrating or responding to the prompts or the visuals that I'm seeing in that video. So maybe I give them some type of simulation video to watch, and I want them to pick it apart or analyze what's going on. I, as the student, narrate what I'm seeing, or, oh, they should have done this in this instance, or I would have done it differently this way. And they can play and pause as they're watching that. So you're capturing that kind of processing. And Mike, I think you've got a
Matthew,
comment.
yeah, I was just going to say we've had faculty, for example, in Spanish and other foreign languages and in ASL, use it for kind of mock or virtual oral proficiency or
Mhm,
signing proficiency interviews, as it were.
mhm,
Um, we we've had various professional programs as students are preparing for internships and stuff like that, do mock virtual interviews, job interviews, and things like that. So you just let your creativity and your imagination run wild, and you can come
mhm,
up with some really good uses of this stimulus video. It's
mhm.
fantastic option.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that context, Mike. And also, one of the references that you made there, like mock interviews, I've even got an example where, like, I pulled a video from YouTube of somebody that pre-recorded themselves asking a couple of questions, and they build in pauses that the student can respond. And like I mentioned earlier, you can use our recording tools to record yourself, providing those questions or prompts. If you have a video example, you can just upload it into it and have that be visible to the students. But absolutely, it's a great way for students to kind of in an ad hoc manner respond or engage with that video footage, whether it's ongoing narrative commentary or if there are built-in pauses or prompts in the video, they can pause the video and respond to those and then resume playing until they've completed the series of prompts. So absolutely multifaceted, great use cases for that one that we can kind of dive into as well. So this is kind of that first major step in that choose your own adventure pathway here, because this is determining, am I giving them a video to watch or do I want students to give me a video to watch? Once you've determined that, the next piece, the next kind of critical step is, what are the privacy settings on this? By default, we set everything to private so that if a student submits a video, I, as the instructor or anybody else with that instructor role within the course, is able to see the footage, but no students see each other's videos in those scenarios. However, you'll see there are two peer feedback options. Now, both of these do make all video submissions available to peers within that activity. And again, this is activity based. So I could have one activity that's open peer review. I could have another that is closed peer review. I can have another that's private. However, the difference between these two is it's in respect to what students are able to see in the commentary log when they're looking at a peer's video. Open peer review, I kind of described as the Wild West. So if I went in and I was looking at Mike's video and 5 other people had watched it and left commentary, I get to see all of those comments. I get to see what Josh, I see what Mariah, I see what Paul have put on Mike's video. I can also see what the instructor has put on that video if they've added any commentary. So it's this wide open, nothing is invisible, nothing is hidden. Closed peer review is a little bit more of a happy medium. So let's say I went into Mike's video, I left Mike 5 comments. Since I don't own the video, I only get to see what I have contributed to Mike's video. I don't get to see anybody else's commentary. Mike, however, gets to see all of the comments because he is the video owner. He needs to have all of that perspective since he's the owner. He is also able to see the instructor comments. So really the big difference between these two is what commentary is visible to my peers on that specific activity. So open peer review is great for like icebreaker activities. So a lot of folks like to start off the year, hey, record yourself for 30 seconds. What's your name? Where are you from? Why are you in this course? It's kind of a nice little community building exercise. Everybody can see each other's videos, comment, everybody gets to build camaraderie. But as you move forward, maybe it's more appropriate to do something like a closed peer review if I want folks to give feedback. I just don't want them to see what everybody is saying about everybody's video. So you can incorporate that. Or if it's truly evaluative, kind of more personal or more high stakes, you can leverage that private option, which again is the default. Any questions on kind of those two? Those are those that and anytime you see a drop down, it is a required field, which we do have defaults, but making sure those are kind of at least clear from kind of functionality perspective at this point before I continue. Hmm. Minor difference, and I apologize. I think I said everything else is the same, but you won't see these two options because these are fields that you're typically setting in your LMS. So you don't have to set an availability date with this or a due date. We're assuming or inheriting whatever availability or due dates you're setting in your LMS. So those fields will not be there, but there will be that attachment menu or option. So if there's any documents, files you want to attach, you can go in here, find those, upload them, and have those visible to the student. Again, kind of setting the stage information if you want to provide them examples. Beyond activity details, the next one is recording settings. And as the name implies, these are really impacting what features, what options are available when a student is recording. As you can see from here, there is a group recording option. If there's ever an instance where you want to have a group of students meet in our product to joint record a video session and submit it as a group, that is an option. Think of it just like this Zoom meeting here today. We agreed we were going to meet at 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Mountain Time Zone, and we showed up and Mike hit record and we're capturing that footage as a group here. It's a very similar process in GoReact if you'd like, where students can kind of have their little tiles in the recording pane. If somebody needs to like share a screen and maybe it's like a group presentation, they can all record themselves at the same time while sharing a visual and kind of do their particular portion of that group project. Maybe it's like a book discussion or a white paper review. We can kind of record ourselves having that dialogue, that back and forth within GoReact so that that footage is captured and then you can see that group submission in its totality as they're recording together. Live review. This is, I kind of like to describe it as kind of a remote observation option. If you know when a student is going to be recording into an activity, if live review is enabled, you can actually watch them as they're recording. So if I knew a teacher or student candidate was out in the field and I knew what time they were going to hit record, I could be in here and I could get a head start on leaving them feedback on their kind of performance in the classroom while they're actively teaching. Student doesn't see that feedback while they're teaching. We want them to be focused on doing the task at hand, but it's a way I can kind of remotely observe what's going on in that particular instance. We also see instructors use this in the classroom as well. So let's say I have all my students give a 5-minute presentation to their classmates in person. Maybe I want to still record the video so they have that as an artifact to reference after the fact. I don't know about you guys, but when I give presentations, I'm sure there's a million things I'm doing as I'm speaking or presenting that I am not consciously aware of. But if I had a video after the fact, I bet you that would, kind of hammer the point home clear. So this gives you an option to allow a recording to go on, but you could also, again, maybe I'm in the back of the classroom watching and they're recording. I could leave my notes and feedback as they're speaking. I don't have to wait until the video's uploaded or processed to do that. I can leave my notes as they're speaking. So again, it's an opportunity that if there's a chance to leave feedback while they're performing, you can do that with that live review feature. Single recording attempt, as the name implies, it's kind of like a test scenario. You have one shot to submit a video. Whatever you give me, that's what I'm scoring. So it's more for those higher stakes. You don't get multiple chances, one shot, and that's what I'm that's what I'm going to assess. You would have the opportunity to give them a retake if there's like a technical issue, or maybe there are extenuating circumstances that warrant it, but it does require you as the instructor to grant them or to remove the previous attempt to open up another opportunity for them. If that setting is not checked, a student could potentially submit multiple attempts, multiple takes. They can actually save recordings as drafts to see like, this might be good, but I want to give it another go to see if I can kind of knock it out of the park next time. So if this is not checked, it is giving the student flexibility to potentially submit more than one take or have more than one attempt on that. Time limit. If there's ever a task that you want to set a hard, fast time limit, you have 20 minutes to complete this. You can set that as a setting. I will note if they use our native recorder, there is a countdown clock that shows to them so they know, hey, you have 5 minutes left, 1 minute. If they upload a video, if it exceeds that time limit, it doesn't cut off the video at that time, but it does note that submission in bright red text. So you are aware, hey, they exceeded the time limit. So if there's like a penalty or points deducted or something, you can kind of apply that at your own discretion. Participant slides. I don't like to say it's a useless feature, more antiquated. Previously, you had to like upload a PowerPoint presentation and sync it kind of like a slideshow if you had a visual component. But about 2 or 3 years ago, we added a screen share feature so that you can just incorporate that directly into your recording. So it's an option to use, but also know any recording a student does, there's a screen share option that they could show like a PowerPoint or some visual on their screen as part of the recordings. You don't have to leverage that. And then recording instructions. This is an opportunity for you to convey to students clearly what the expectations for the recording are. Please perform the said task in 20 minutes and make sure you do A, B, and C as part of this activity. Don't point your camera at bright light sources or have a lot of loud background noise, please. So just a clear chance to convey like expectations, best practices. If you want to record a video instead of typing like I did, you can. You can actually use both if you'd like, but ultimately it's a way that you convey what your expectations are with the recording. I also like to stress that this is something that the student has to click through before they can submit a video. They cannot tell you after the fact if they've submitted something that they did not see those instructions. They may not have read it, but that recording instruction box will always pop up, and they have to click through it before they submit a video. So I always like to say it's like that last ditch effort. Like, I've done everything I possibly can. I've led the horse to water, but I can't force you to drink or read the instructions. And then last but not least, feedback settings. So this is where you get to choose some of those settings that I opted into that activity I showed you earlier. So markers, if I want to leverage existing markers or build my own, this is where I can add those in. If I want to add a rubric to this, if I've built a rubric, I can go into my rubric collection here. I can select it. This is also where I can build rubrics if I need to. So I will note that you do have to build rubrics in GoReact. It's not something that you can import from your LMS. And you'll see here when I go into the rubric builder, it is kind of like a drag and drop utility. So I just find the different question types, drag it into our rubric builder, and you can edit or adjust any of those fields you see here to match the verbiage, the structure of what documents or what rubrics you are creating in here. I will say once you've built it in GoReact, you don't have to build it again. So it will be saved in your library permanently. You can make copies if you ever need to make small tweaks in the future. This is the same for markers as well. Once you've built a marker set, it's stored in your account unless you choose to delete it at a future point. But you can always copy and make modifications or tweaks as needed as well. But as you build these markers and as I add like point values, you're going to see at the top of the screen, it's going to start like looking, hey, what's the grand total of that max point that a student can achieve on this? I like to call this out because make sure if you are leveraging a rubric and you expect that score to go into your gradebook, make sure the grand total here matches whatever you told your LMS the grand total for that activity can be. If this number does not match what you told the LMS this activity is like maximum point wise worth, the LMS, the LTI integration will not pass that grade into your grade book. So just double check. Okay, told my LMS this was worth 5 points, says it's worth 5 points. This is good. Oh, Matt's rubric. You hit save, and you'll see here, Matt's rubric has been added, and that's what rubric will demonstrate or display when I go in to score these videos. Participant rubric. This is where if you have a rubric or a form you want students to see, you can find it in your account or your library, I should say. Add that in, and that's what they will see when they go into that video. And then last but not least, feedback instructions. This is kind of a parallel function to the recording instructions. It's just that this is what students will see when they click into a video, whether it's their own or an instance of a peer activity, they can see these instructions when they click into a peer's video. So this is where I could say, please watch your own video and leave 5 comments on your own performance, or watch 3 of your peers' videos and leave them each 5 comments on their performance. Just a way that you can be clear on the expectations for what you're expecting them to do feedback-wise. Now, as you see, there's a ton of settings in here, and not a lot of them are required. There are like 3 settings in here that are absolutely required, but they're all drop downs, they're pre-filled. So you could, in theory, create a really baseline entry level GoReact activity. And once you're done, you just simply click create. And within your LMS, that new activity would load. You'd have a blank screen like this. And whenever your students submit videos, that's when you're going to start to see those individual tiles that appear, letting you know, hey, there's something to view here. So don't get overwhelmed with all of those settings or options. You do not have to use them in every single activity. We just want you leveraging those features that add value or kind of make sure you're framing that activity in the way that is best for the kind of educational outcome you're looking to achieve with that. So I'll pause there. Any questions on any of those settings that I reviewed there during that process?
I just put a message in the in the chat to let people know how they can contact me if they want to try out GoReact, and I can show them how to integrate that into Learning Suite or Canvas quickly.
Perfect.
So
Perfect. Excellent. I appreciate that, Mike. All right. So real quickly, just to kind of reiterate or show like, and you can also as an instructor, once you've set this up, you can kind of experience it from the student's perspective. You can click start activity. You can give your video a title, example, instructor video. It knows since I clicked the button who I am. In this instance, I am Professor Fitzgerald. This is also where if I were working with a group of peers, I could add my peers to this activity. So it's associated with all of us. As I mentioned, that recording instruction always pops up. You cannot get to the submission options until you've seen this. I may not read this, but I do have to click continue to get to submission options. And this is where, as I was alluding to earlier, we do have a native recording tool in GoReact. You can use this tool if you want to record directly into our system. You do need a network connection while you are recording, so make sure you've got a strong wireless connection or maybe you're hardwired in, but this is an option you can leverage with a network connection. But also, in the event maybe you're in an environment where it's unstable or maybe something power goes out or your internet's down, you can still record on a personal device and upload into our system so that you can still have that file. As I mentioned, there's that YouTube integration. So if I use like the YouTube app and record a video there, I can copy and paste the link here so that my instructor can see my submission. Or Zoom, whether it's a Zoom recording on your computer, you can upload it. Or if you have that cloud account, you can actually connect to your Zoom account and import it, sync it over to our system. As Mike alluded to earlier, it sounds like there is a finite period of time that it is stored in your cloud, but if you leverage this and that file is in there, you could import it into this activity. All right, so with the time we have remaining here, I did want to take an opportunity just to show you an example of the comment only and the stimulus again, just so we can kind of see a concrete example of those two tools in practice. So I'm going to go into the comment only because this is the real clear, easy way to see it once you've had an opportunity to set it up. So as a student, I simply click start activity. And you'll see here in this instance, I found a TED talk that I wanted my students to watch. They just watch this on the media player over here. And all of these tools, all of the options I've set on this are over here to the right. So as I'm watching Clint Smith here, I could note, I have a question about this particular moment. I can note those in the feedback log here. In this type of activity, there are two privacy settings. There is one that is private. So if you want students to individually submit their questions or note their analysis, you can have it set up that each student is submitting their own individual submission. It's also a great opportunity for that open peer review where ultimately we're all watching this video and we can see each other's questions or see each other's feedback and comments. We can actually reply back and forth with each other. So it can truly be that wide open video discussion board if there's ever a video where that type of open dialogue amongst all of my students could be beneficial. Maybe it helps me to answer some of those low hanging fruit questions that peers know the answer and lets me focus more on, oh, this was a really in-depth, kind of really good critique here. Let me kind of focus in or hone in on this piece. But ultimately, I, as the student, I watch the video, I note my questions, my comments based on the instructions my instructor gave me, and that's how I complete that activity. It's also possible that this could be a graded activity. So if you do a private setting where it's like each student is submitting their own feedback, you could actually assess or score that feedback, and that could pipe into the grade book as well. And then the fun one, that stimulus activity. And as Mike said earlier, there's a use case where if you have students that are getting close to, entering the job market, maybe they need to practice some of those soft skills like interviewing or things like that. There's a great opportunity to have them engaging with kind of prompts or video content. And let me go to the recording option here, where you can kind of see, and again, I apologize for having to see me twice in this, but you'll see here, I've got two panes. I've got this video here on the left. This is the video I have provided my student to watch. And then I've got me over here on the right. And you'll see here, when I hit record, that video immediately starts playing And I, as the student, can watch that video. I can hear the prompts or questions. And I'm going to skim through this a little bit just so we can get to kind of the part where he's actually asking questions. You'll see he's sitting there pausing deliberately, and I've got my little timer there letting me know how long I have to record myself responding. So it's giving me that chance to record my responses, my interactions with what's going on in the video I'm viewing. It is possible, and I've got like the Zoom, sorry, got like the Zoom control tool in my way. I'm trying to drag it out. I, as the student, can actually pause the video if I want to stop it and just record my response. You have that ability to control it. So as I'm recording, I can stop the video, record my response, and then just resume playing whenever I'm ready for the next prompt or next question here. There are additional settings if you do a stimulus activity. So you can see me, I'm scrubbing through this video. If I wanted to, I could like back up and go back and see a part of the video. There are actually settings that you can choose to remove the ability to scrub or jump ahead or jump back. It kind of forces the student to watch it in its entirety. So it could be used for like an assessment or evaluation purposes. Foreign language, as Mike was referencing, or ASL are great use cases where previously maybe I had to schedule time for all my students to come in and we'd have that conversation in the language we're learning. Well, maybe I just want to record myself asking those questions and students can complete this whenever, but I want them to just watch it through one time. They don't get to listen to the prompts again and again. That's a way I can control to make sure students are going through that assessment in the way I want them to. But ultimately, when I've completed the prompts or I have finished analyzing what I'm seeing in this video, I just hit stop as the student. I'm going to hit post here. It's a little bit of processing time with the videos, but ultimately there will be a notification when that video is ready for the instructor to view. And it may be, oh, there, perfect, it's done. And then when I am reviewing it as, sorry, my voice was playing twice. You can see now I am actually assessing or analyzing your response to the prompt that I've given you. So I'm watching these kind of side by side, but I still have all of those commentary tools. Great analysis here. Or yeah, that would help if I could spell, sorry. But you can kind of assess my analysis of what's going on in that video based on the prompt at that given point. And as you noted here, when I was fumbling a bit, you can actually adjust the volume or turn off the volume on the stimulus if you just want to focus in on the students or vice versa. Yeah, lots of creative ways that can be leveraged, whether it's kind of prompt questions like we're seeing here with this interview. If it's simulation role play based videos where it's looking for assessment, you have that opportunity. But kind of there's a multitude of ways this could be leveraged. I will say that it does maybe take a time or two for students to kind of acclimate to, oh, I'm supposed to be watching that video and recording at the same time. So maybe it might be a good chance to have kind of an icebreaker or maybe a low stakes initial run at this so students can acclimate. But once they've kind of seen it in action once, it's generally really easy to incorporate going forward. And I see I'm quickly approaching the top of my hour. So Mike, if I do need to wrap up, I'm happy to do so at this particular point.
All right. I think we probably ought to wrap up since it's the top of the hour, but we
Absolutely.
appreciate you, Matthew, for coming and showing GoReact, and Paul and Nick and Joshua and Mariah who had to cut out. We appreciate you coming, and if you do have any questions about GoReact, you can reach out to me, and if I can't answer, I can get you in touch with Matthew. But we actually created GoReact originally at the CTL, so I know my way around it. So, but anyway, now obviously there's been features added since we developed it originally, but
Mhm.
it's great, and I really appreciate what you guys have done with the tool to expand it in so many ways. So, all
Absolutely.
right. Thank you again. Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you everyone for coming.
Yep. My pleasure. Thank you all for your time and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.